Hi, my name is Melvin Wilkinson, and I'm the author of the book, The Angel and the Beast. I really want to talk to you about my book today. Now, of course, I would like you to buy the book, but honestly, I like money a little bit. It's of some value, but I really want you to read the book for this very important reason. I really think it will help you discern truth from evil in the last days and some of the things I believe are going to be happening in these last days. So I think it's very important. Now, here's the cover of my book. That's an ugly-looking guy on there called the Beast. And he's sort of the star of the book, but he's a really bad guy. And you'll see the Twin Towers up there. And the book asks the question, is it possible that the hijackers, the terrorists, were just puppets? They were not really in control of 9/11. There was a higher power that was behind this, a power so high that even the President of the United States was powerless against it. And then the book goes on some few years in the future to a later time, and the book asks some questions. Here's the questions on the back of the book. In an alternate universe, they come in 2012 with their spaceships to save mankind and to unify our world, doing great wonders with their advanced technology, announcing that they are our real saviors. But what is their real agenda? Have they really been here a long time? Do they secretly control world governments? Were they behind 9/11? How do we recognize who they really are? Is the book of Revelation the key to recognizing them? What is the mark of the beast, the name of the beast, and the number of the beast? What monstrous evil was going on before the flood that caused God to destroy all flesh and has now returned? What is the horrible secret of the abomination of desolation? Can a small band of patriots in the Rocky Mountains fight against the worldwide domination of the beast? Are our indigo, crystal, and unicorn children the key to saving all mankind from the power of the beast? Now, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual. I'm going to read you part of my book. So I want to commit you not only is the information in this book really important, but it's a good read. It has interesting people and interesting characters. So I'm going to start right now reading a little bit from my book. No, he really sees us, said Joseph. He knows we are here. He knows where we are and who we are. If he does, said David, and he knows where we are, he will come for the children. You know what that means. We have to leave right away tonight. They did leave that night. Luckily, it was summer. They couldn't even tell their family or friends where they were going. When they were questioned, as they would be, the neighbors had to honestly be able to say that they knew nothing about the disappearance of the Youngs. The Youngs had a small travel trailer they towed behind their Jeep Cherokee. It was already packed. They had to leave their cell phones behind because they had GPS units in them and would be tracked. They left so much behind. There were tears in their eyes as they locked the door behind them and looked at their house and yard for the last time. There were wonderful vegetable gardens and fruit trees. They had been practicing growing their own food for some time. Their beautiful flowers and the children's play equipment all left behind. There were so many memories there. The wonderful romantic years when there were just the two of them. Then the even happier time when Deborah was pregnant with the twins. Somehow they both knew it would be twins. They had many dreams about them. They knew exactly what their names should be, Joseph and Maria. Joseph was not named after the stepfather of Jesus, but after the Joseph in the Old Testament, the Joseph of the coat of many colors. Both David and Deborah loved his story of how he was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, but was not discouraged and rose from a slave to be the ruler of all of Egypt, and the even greater story of how he forgave all of his brothers for the awful thing they had done to him. Maria was not named after the mother of Jesus alone, but also after Mary Magdalene, the faithful companion of Jesus, who had perhaps the greatest honor of all, the honor of being the very first person to whom the resurrected Christ appeared. Deborah had loved the Spanish version of Maria, ever since she saw West Side Story. David thought of his pioneer ancestors who left all behind to cross the plains to find a better life. Everything they owned was in their covered wagons. They were often not even sure of where they were going. He especially thought of how brave the pioneer women were. It was one thing for a man to set off into the uncharted wilderness, but for a woman with children to do this was incredibly brave. To keep house miles away from anyone and to give birth far away from any medical help, that was real courage. He gazed into Deborah's eyes, which were filled with tears, the eyes that he fell in love with the first time he saw them. He knew that she had more courage than he did, that as much as she loved him, she would do even more to protect the life of her children. It was much harder for a woman to leave her home than a man. Deborah's heart was filled with memories as she gazed at her house for the very last time. The house was modest, but she had spent hours making it beautiful. It was almost like an extension of her and her family. To leave was like leaving a part of herself. All the wonderful memories of the twins. They had so many memories of them playing in the house and the yard, teaching them how to read and singing silly songs with him. No family was happier in the whole world. Although they were twins, their personalities were very different. Maria had dark eyes like her mother and was like a little fairy or sprite, darting from one thing to another. She was always on the go, always bright and bubbly, like bottled sunshine. Joseph had blue eyes like his father and was quieter and more serious. He seemed to study and analyze everything and would sit for hours watching shows that seemed well beyond his age. Although the personalities were different, no siblings were ever closer, and they understood each other without words. They were always very unusual children. From the time they were born, they looked at you with their big eyes as if they were looking into your soul. Other times, they would gaze up at the ceiling as if they were seeing something up there that no one else could see. They were late talkers that seemed to understand everything that was said to them, even though they rarely replied. One of the doctors thought they might be autistic or retarded. Both David and Deborah knew that was not true. They were warm and affectionate and loved human interaction. They were very good at making their needs understood. Their communication with each other was incredible, as they seemed to be able to read each other's minds. Perhaps this is part of the reason that they were late talkers. Maybe they thought that everyone communicated through telepathy. Once they started talking, they moved very quickly. It was almost as if one day they didn't talk and the next day they did. They learned to read at the age of 3, and that became their favorite pastime. They had incredible imaginations and had many imaginary friends. Or maybe they weren't imaginary. They were generally well-behaved, but were very curious. And this curiosity sometimes led them to cross some boundaries. It often seemed that behavior was carefully calculated. They didn't care what the consequences were. They would be willing to pay the price. They accepted their unusual abilities in a very matter-of-fact way. One time when they were about 4, Deborah remarked to a neighbor that the twins thought they were smarter than she was. "But we are, Mommy," they said in unison. It was not bragging, it was just reality. Now she had to leave all of these memories behind. But even though her heart was being torn in two, Deborah did not hesitate in what she had to do. Even though she did not understand all of the details, she knew her children were a key to fighting the beast. And the beast knew all this also. He would never allow them to live. Her children were the most important things in the world to her, and if it meant leaving everything behind, it was well worth it. Now, I've read a little bit of the book to you. I hope you are encouraged to read it. Please click on the website just below this video. It's a clickable link right to my book. Thank you.